So many times when we're in foreclosure, we're dealing with situations. We have people coming at us from the woodwork. And you're going to have people mailing you information, people calling you, some people will door knock you, because some of us that are dealing with foreclosures, we either have equity in the property or some of us are upside down. So your house may have some equity in it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to AskRinde. I'm Rinde Adebayo, digital entrepreneur, real estate entrepreneur, and top producing real estate agent here in New Jersey. And welcome to AskRinde. If it's your first time on my channel, please hit the subscribe button and smash the like button. I do videos about foreclosure, income, and credit, and I would love to have you as a part of our growing network all around the country. Also, we're currently pre-enrolling for Foreclosure Hacks Academy, so click the link below to get started today. I want to take a quick moment to also welcome all our new subscribers. I've actually been getting your emails, your contact, and your comments, and I look forward to actually having you guys on this journey for us to not only stop foreclosure, but take over the income and credit and actually give a value to the world that they've never seen before. So thank you guys for joining me on this journey. So today I want to talk to you guys about subject to foreclosures. This is a topic that's actually been on my radar for quite a while now. I've been wanting to do a video about it. And I do have a history with this particular part of real estate. And I can tell you that it's probably one of the most untalked about parts of real estate when it comes to dealing with foreclosures. But it is something that is a very extremely important area to actually not only do a video on, but to share with you guys insight on. So subject to is generally a concept of creative real estate financing. And that is, it involves you as a homeowner, it involves your deed, and it also involves a third party. So the scenario goes where you as a homeowner, you're in some sort of duress or stress with the property. You've had the property for quite some time, and you're currently in a situation where you're dealing with whether or not you're going to be able to hold on to it. You're going through a stressful process. So it's you and your family pretty much in the middle of this whole scenario, and then the house is there, and you're trying to figure out what to do. Now, when you bought the property, as I've always taught here on my channel, you actually signed a mortgage and you signed a note. And when you did that, the mortgage being what you agreed to at the interest rates, et cetera, what your payment is going to be. And then the note was actually a promissory note that was also created, attached to the mortgage, that you were basically on the hook to be able to make sure that you made the mortgage payment. And there were terms in there that were included in the documents that you signed when you did buy the property that precluded what would happen in a situation where you did transfer ownership of the property, and also what would happen regarding if you defaulted on the property. So the same documents that you signed when you actually purchased the property, that actually precluded or included what the obligation and the rights were that the banks had in order to take course of action in case you defaulted on your payment, also included things and clauses in there that affected what would happen in the case where you did go ahead and either sell the property or the debt was no longer pretty much in your name. So you either refinance it, sold, etc. This is a very important point that I'm going to get to shortly, but I actually just wanted to make a note of that so you actually know this part. Now the next part would be then a third party, which is I would label this an investor. So many times when we're in foreclosure, we're dealing with situations. We have people coming at us from the woodwork. And you're going to have people mailing you information, people calling you, some people will door knock you. But in essence, they want to engage you to be able to figure out what can be done. Because some of us that are dealing with foreclosures, we either have equity in the property or some of us are upside down. So your house may have some equity in it, which it could be, in the tens of thousands, it could be very little, or you could be in a situation where your property, what you owe on the property is more than what the value of the property is, and in that case you're a short sale. So that is pretty much the value, what I would call the value position of your property. And these people that are contacting you, they are either going off of public records that show them either you have equity in the property. So for example, if I wanted to pull up your property and you were on public records, let's say for example you're going to be on a sheriff sale auction or an auction, they would show the debt that's attached to the property. So they would say, so-and-so, Mr. Jones, has an upset amount or a debt of $543,000. And so the investor will be able to see that you owe $543,000 or the upset amount, the auction amount, would be $543,000 on the property, and they would actually be able to then compare that with what the rough estimate of the house would be. So, for example, you owe $543,000. What they would probably do, again, I'm just using this as not to say that this is exactly how you would actually estimate the value of the property. As you know, I'm an agent here, so we have a way of doing comparables to be able to establish what is, quote unquote, I would say maybe a truer value, not an appraisal, but a truer value of what a property would go for in the current market. But you can check Zillow, and Zillow would give you a rough estimate, or zestimate rather, of what the property would be. So the person contacting you will be able to see what you owe, and they'll be able to get an idea. Maybe the house is worth, $545,000, which in case there's nothing there, or the property is worth, let's say, $400,000. Whatever the case is, you're going to get contacted regarding if the person has in mind subject to, they're going to contact you, and I'm going to explain to you why. So what that basically means is that you have debt on the property. Let's say it's $543,000. Okay, so the investor is going to approach you, and they're going to contact you. They're going to say, well, we want to buy your property. And you're going to say, well, how? They're going to roll out the option of subject to, and what subject to will entail would mean that they would then be pitching to you to take over your payments, your mortgage payments. You still have a monthly obligation that you're on the hook for with the property. They will take over your monthly payments, and what they want is, in exchange, you would actually deed the property over to them. So I actually always call this whole scenario, when it comes to foreclosure specifically, and being approached by an investor or anyone that wanting to do subject to, my take on it, I always call this a DUI. That's my slang for this type of scenario. Now, no, DUI connotes driving under the influence, and you really are under some sort of influence to be able to do a deal like this when you're in foreclosure. Now, I'm an investor. I can share with you that there's a good side of subject to, but what I wanted to share, and I'm sharing this is a cautionary video. This is a cautionary tale to be able to help you, because I'm dealing with a lot of people who have been taken advantage of through subject to, via subject to, and they're pretty much screwed. And I'm going to go in this video, I'm going to share with you the ramifications of what could happen. Because a lot of times you'll see videos and on these platforms, and people are telling you how they're doing subject to, and the person is in distress, the person is in duress, and this is how they're giving value, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, as you know, here on our channel, we kind of flip the script. We're the ones in trouble. So I'm sharing it from that aspect of, okay, you can't go on YouTube or Facebook or any of these other platforms and just watch a video on, if I'm in a situation and I'm being approached with a subject to, how do I handle it? This is why I'm here. This is why we exist. This is why the Academy exists, because we are actually here to fight and go through our situations and have some knowledge, instead of everyone and all the content out there being just geared towards how, us being in a glass, so to speak, a glass bottle where everyone's looking in at us. We flip it, and we're able to actually see our way out and look out them and have a strategy on how to deal with what's coming at us. And so it's very important that you understand what you're being approached with. So when the investors approach you, they're going to basically state that they're going to go ahead and take over your monthly payment, and they want you to actually sign the deed over to them. Now, how is this possible? Going back to what I shared with you regarding when you purchase the property, you sign a mortgage and a note. Well, one of the things that you will note in your documentation is that there's something called a due on sale clause. And the due on sale clause pretty much states that should ownership, once the bank ascertains and locates that there's ownership transfer of your property, whether it is a refinance or sale, the due on sale clause is triggered. And so the due on sale clause connotes that the property then becomes due on any kind of transfer. So all the debt, whether it's $543,000, whatever the debt is on your property, the bank is calling that due immediately. So where this kind of gets tricky is that people do this all the time, but what happens generally is when you do this type of transaction, you are still on the hook for the debt, right? So you are then now still on the hook for the debt, but you're going ahead and you're allowing someone else to take over your monthly payment. Why would they do that? Well, a lot of times, people that are in situations, those of us have dealt with foreclosure situations, we know that we're in, somewhat of a desperate situation. We are, our back is up against the wall. We're looking for all options. And a lot of times, generally, what will solve our foreclosure situation is if we can reinstate our loan. So if you're able to reinstate your mortgage, you can pretty much be free and clear. Generally, the investor or anyone contacting you to do a subject to, they will use this as a highlight. That look, we're going to reinstate your mortgage. We're going to actually bring the payments current. We're going to take over the debt, and we're going to continue making the payments. And the only difference is that you're going to sign the deed over to them. So many times, I don't know any investor who's done a subject to that will allow you to stay in the property. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down, share with you, with this scenario, what the repercussions are, what the pitfalls are, and also share with you what the benefits are to the investor. Because the upside for you would be that, okay, you potentially have your mortgage reinstated, and that this person is making the monthly payments for you on the debt that you have an obligation for, that something's happened in life that you're not able to handle it. You're not able to actually, facilitate or keep up your payments, etc. So this person approaches you, they say, look, we're going to reinstate your mortgage. We're going to go ahead and take over the payments, and we're going to, basically, make sure that your payments are current. So it's reporting on your credit. And then the only thing is that you got to deed the property over to us. But now you have a situation where you say to yourself, well, what about the due on sale clause? Well, that's where this comes in, recording. So many times, whenever a real estate transaction occurs, there are recordings that are done both on the mortgage side and then also on a county or city level, municipal level. On the mortgage side, generally what they'll do is they'll record, how much it is that the debt is. Those things are recorded. Those are the things that the mortgage company has on file, because they have to keep track of that, because their interest is collateral. They want to make sure that you have making your payments, your payments are current. You are fulfilling your obligation, because should in case you don't do that, then they have a right to take action and go through the process of recovering the collateral that secures the mortgage, and so that in that case, the recording of that is primarily of interest to the mortgage company. Now, on the city level, when it comes to things like taxes, municipal needing to know who the owner is, etc., that's where the deed gets recorded. Okay, so the deed gets recorded in the municipal, and generally the mortgage company never checks on this. So they don't, like in the life of your loan, people take out 30-year loans, some people take out 15-year loans, some people take out 40-year loans. The mortgage company doesn't keep track of going to the city every year to check on the status of your deed, to check on if there's any changes. So many times when the investors submit to you with subject to, the only way the mortgage company can generally find out about this and call the loan due on sale is if someone tells them. Generally, they don't have a way to find out. When we've been doing this for so long, you kind of learn the intricacies and the interworkings of how things work with dealing with not only, just real estate transactions in general, but just, dealing with seeing how the system works. Because all this stuff is all system-based, even including dealing with foreclosure. When you are in a situation where you're facing something that seems to be like, man, I'm never going to get through this. There's a systematic way of getting through that, as scary as it may seem. Except that, we just have not had a lot of openness. We have not had a lot of people willing to delve into this part of it to help. Generally, there's a lot of programs out there that have come across over the years. There are a lot of predators that come out. There are some people that have helped, and I'm not saying that all programs, because we've had programs such as the NC Carolina Fund that closed down. There are things that have helped people to come through things, but generally what I'm sharing in essence is that when we have been on the side of the foreclosure and dealing with the phone calls, it's hard to know who to trust, and it's hard to know what you're dealing with. It's hard to know. It's bad enough that you're dealing with a stressful situation. You don't know what's coming at you. You don't know what the motives are. You don't know what, and it's hard to make a decision. So that's why we want to try to help with as much content and foreclosure education, so that we can give you, the tools, but then also give you a safe place to turn to, where you have a network that will be able to support you and really help you make proper decisions, give you guidance on what to do, how to go about doing it, and to be able to understand what you're seeing and what you're being approached with. It's very important. Generally, the mortgage company won't be able to find out about any deed transfer because they don't check on it. Unless someone calls them and says to them, well, my deed is in a different name. So again, the investor and their attorney banking on this will actually prepare paperwork and you have you sign on to it. Some investors will make it to where the first month you'll be obligated to still make the mortgage payment, but then they will do it after the 30 days, so to speak, and it'll activate after a certain time. Now, one thing you need to be aware of is that I don't know any investor that's actually done a subject to and call and ask the owner to remain in the property. Because if that's the case, you might as well just stay in there and make the mortgage payments, right? So they're not going to leave you in the house and keep you as a tenant. And so what that means is that you're going to have to move out. And you will trust me, the investors already done their numbers. They've looked at your mortgage payment. They've looked at the amount. They've looked at the market. They know that the property can either be rented for more money, or the property can be sold. And I'm going to get into that in a moment. But you're going to have to move out. So this is something you need to be aware of. So generally, you're going to be moving out, and you will have deeded your property over to them. The main thing you need to be aware of is the fact that you are on the hook for this mortgage. So what happens in essence is that all the bills, they will take over. Anything having to do with the property, maintenance, the grass, anything having to do with the water, all that stuff is they pretty much bought the property from you subject to, and you deeded the property over to them. So technically, the deed is now in their name. They're the new owners, except that the debt is still in your name. So what's generally the obligation of the person who's purchasing it, they're going to take over all the bills that have to do with the property, but at the same time, they have access to all the income. So all the income benefits of the property, they get. So if your property has a mortgage of, let's say, $1,500 and it's a house, right? And then you do a subject to deal, and the rental market in that area is $2,300. Well, once you move out, the person can come in there, do whatever sprucing they need to do, and rent the place out for $2,300. I'm just using this as an example. Sometimes the numbers are lower, sometimes the numbers are higher, but the essence is that generally they are doing this. They're not stupid. They're doing this for a reason. So there's a benefit to them. So they have all the income that they're getting from the property. You don't have access to that income. If you are in a situation where you have equity in the property, they may tell you, or they may position, or they may propose to you that they will give you X amount of money when the property sells. That's a document that can be created. If the property is a short sale, these are people who are generally kind of like want to walk away, so to speak. You guys have heard about that during the last crash, where some people just walked out, they packed their bags and left. Many times, people that do subject to like these, because they want to be in a position where the person doesn't care anyway. The person's going to walk away, so then they'll go in and approach them with a subject to, because the house is just going to be sitting there for the bank to come in, do their gestation period, and then turn it into an REO, which might take 18 months. The short sale option is more attractive for a lot of subject to people, simply because they look at it from an aspect of, well, you don't care. And not only are you in a duress, in a tight situation, a very, I would say, hairy situation, where you're very, very motivated to do something, but then you don't have an emotional attachment, so to speak, because the property is in a short sale status. So a lot of times in my time, I have seen more subject tos that I've had to go in and fix through short sale situations than people that have equity positions in them. And this is something that is a big part I want to note for you guys, because if you're in a situation where you're in a short sale and you feel like, that all hope is lost, there's nothing else that can be done, you might as well just walk away, and somebody approaches you with a subject to, beware, because with the short sale, you probably get targeted more with these type of scenarios. Now, one thing I want to get into, I'm going to share with you the benefits to the investor. Why would the investor want to do this? Number one is the investor is actually able to use this as an income stream. This is a very important point of why they do that and why they want to do a subject to with you, because they're able to get a property. They're able to take over an entire property asset without any money. There's no money involved here that they've put up. They're just going to be taking over your payments. And so in their case, they're able to then generally come in with a property that they've already ascertained how much mortgage they're going to have to cover monthly. And they already know that they either have a tenant buyer lined up, or they already have someone that they have in mind that's going to market the property for them to get them the maximum amount of monthly rental that they can get, because they will be making a monthly income on this property, which is every investor's dream. Everyone wants to be in a situation where they're dealing with property that they can actually cash flow on. All of us want that. I invest as well. Everybody wants cash flowing investment property. The other benefit to them is the fact that the debt is in your name. So just imagine buying a house with no mortgage. That's exactly what this is. You're able to buy and get your house, get the deed in their name, get it out of your name, get it in their name. You went through the hassle of getting the mortgage and going the whole process of buying the property, getting a mortgage and a note. Now you just deeded the property over to them. They're the new owner. You're out. So the debt is in your name. So that means that you are stuck with this debt still on your name, but the house is theirs. It's deeded over to them, and they have income coming off of it. You don't have monthly income coming off of it. The third benefit to the investor is the fact that they have the option to sell the property. So again, once you have a property, you can do whatever you want with it, right? Especially if you're in a fee simple ownership situation where this is not like a co-op or something like that. This is fee simple ownership. This is, you own the property. And again, here we're talking about states that where the deed is actually, the deed and the mortgage is in your name. We're not talking about states like California where the deed is in the mortgage company's name, is never in your name. Okay, that doesn't apply to states like that. But they can sell the property. So a lot of times, I'm going to paint a scenario for you. They buy your property subject to, okay? They're able to then take over your monthly payments, and they have the deed in their name. They are taking care of the property. They're taking care of all the bills. They also have all the income coming in from the property. They decide that they're going to go ahead and sell the property. So when they sell the property, they have the option now of selling the property with seller financing. In essence, because the debt is in your name and not theirs, they can approach a buyer that is willing to pay them more for the property, because they will tell the buyer, look, I have a property that I'm selling, and I'm willing to do it with a seller financing option. So that means that you don't need to get a mortgage. All I need you to do is go into an agreement with me. You're going to become what is called a tenant buyer. And at some point in time, you can then go ahead and exercise, you can rent for a bit. Maybe you start off that way. Or you can go ahead and get a mortgage right away. But I can tell you this, because of the idea that I'm selling this to you as a seller with seller financing, I will then go ahead and sell the property to you for more than what the value is, or more than what is owed on it. And so generally what happens, sometimes these investors are able to not only sell this property for more than what you owe, because of the kind of buyer that they have lined up on the end. These are people who generally are either in trouble, or these are people who are generally looking to try to get around getting a mortgage. So this investor is able to not only make money off of the property via monthly, but then also when they go to sell the property, most times they're selling it for more. They're selling it for more. And it really is, this is kind of like simple, but many times I think we get intimidated by this stuff. It's complicated, right? So sometimes people don't want to deal with that. They're looking to be able to get into something. They know their situation already. They know that their stuff is not perfect. They're willing to sacrifice and do a little bit more because they want to move around having to go through traditional sources of institutional lending or ways to be able to get money to be able to finance whatever they're doing, whether it's a house or a car, etc. And so from that aspect, the investors know that. So they target people like this because these people are willing to basically pay more for the property in the long run, and basically they're able to make out more. So now the fourth benefit to these investors will be that they're able to actually leverage the property. So what that means is that they're with this asset being in their name, they've been deeded over to them, they're able to leverage this property now to either buy other property, or they're able to leverage the property to be able to get more, more volume of business within that area. Real estate is an anchor, and what I mean by that is, as an agent, we focus on listings here in New Jersey because listings are pretty much your storefront. So when you have a listing, you're able to put a sign on it. You can do open houses. You can do many different things that allow you to be able to access the community. With these properties for the subject to investors, there's multiple ways of leverage that's beneficial to them. Aside from this, not only these things that I've listed, but they can also use this to be able to purchase, not like I said, other property. They can use this to be able to get other people within your area to either sell to them or other things that they can benefit from within the community. And so you just keep in mind that is very, very beneficial to these investors to do these type of deals. Is pretty much almost no risk. And I know some people may say, well, no, it's very, very risky because they're putting up money, they're paying your monthly mortgage payment. Now, this is where it brings me down to, and this is where all of what I've shared with this video, this is what this video is about. This is where the downfall comes in. Okay? Big downfall. The reason why this is very risky for you, and this is going from first-hand information from someone who's been doing this for a while, and I've seen a lot of different scenarios. I can tell you that subject to real estate investing for you on the foreclosure side, or even distress. You could be in a tax. You could be watching this video and you have a tax lien situation. You could have a probate situation. You could have, whatever distress that it doesn't necessarily have to be foreclosure, but because our audience and my people that I speak to are foreclosure, I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna focus on that, and that is simply because the downfall comes in is that this whole thing will work out with the debt and the monthly mortgage payment being made. It's only as good as this person, the investor. Where I've seen terrible situations happen, and I've seen that more than not, is when people go through this whole scenario, they go ahead and they do a subject to with someone, they deed their property over to them, and they're expecting the person to make the monthly mortgage payment. And guess what? They don't. And so I'm going to list to you the issues that arise from the downfall and how detrimental it can be to you. Number one, obviously, like I shared many times, the debt is in your name. But this is more than just saying the debt is in your name. The debt is in your name, meaning that you cannot go ahead and buy any other property, or you would have to keep in mind that this debt weight is still on you. So as we know, homes are our biggest liabilities for most people, right? It's in the hundreds of thousands. And when they're looking to do anything, whether it's purchase a car or buy another property or even rent, people pull your credit. And so just keep in mind that you moved out and you've left the property, you've gone through the scenario, you've signed the property over, you did the subject to, deeded it over to them. They're making all these benefits from it. But then your debt is still in your name. So if you're trying to, let's say you and your husband and wife, you want to buy another property, your debt to income or your debt ratio will still factor in this debt. So that means that you're out there, moved out from the property, and let's say the property did get reinstated, but then the debt is still on you, that whole debt. And so you have to understand that it is a downfall for you because at the end of the day, whatever scenario caused this issue to start with, to begin with, you have to look at the scenarios or solutions that will be, well, I call final solutions. You can't put masking tape on something like this. You need to basically understand that even if you're in a situation where it looks impossible, whatever move you make, it shouldn't be a temporary move. It shouldn't be something that can come back to bite you later on. And that's where this starts to lead down the road. If you are dealing with someone who doesn't have integrity, who does not have a way to be able to be accountable to you and to ensure that this debt is going to be paid every month. But let's say, for example, they don't pay it. Let's say, for example, they say, you know what, we had a hard month, we had a tenant move out, they broke stuff and all that stuff. We can't make the mortgage payment. So what are you going to do? What's your recourse? You're going to try to take them to court? That, my friend, is an absolute long shot, because you, in your own merit, you deeded the property over to them. So I'm going to put down long shot. You deeded the property over to them. So for you to take them to court to try to basically get a judge to side with you, that there was some, what are you going to tell the judge? You're going to say to the judge, well, I deeded my house over to them, and they were supposed to be making my monthly mortgage payment. They didn't. And the judge's going to say to you, was your signature forged? Did you deed the property over to them? these people have attorneys. They're going to have you sign a document, and that will make it very difficult for you to have anything hold up in court. So you see, that's a huge problem, because think about it. You are leaving your house, or the house, or whatever the case is, and you're going somewhere else. You don't have a benefit monthly. You don't have a benefit of the space, right? At the same time, the debt is still on your name, and you don't have a repercussion to go after these people should something not go correctly or they did not fulfill their part. The whole scenario was subject to, the entire thing is only as good as this person, the obligator, the person who's approaching you, and the fact that if they're able to actually keep their obligation. It is a very, very dicey situation, and you have to make sure that you're very careful. I've seen scenarios where this has gone really, really bad, and the person who got the property had this house tied up for a while. Generally, what happens a lot of times with these situations where I've seen it go bad is when the person then stops making the monthly obligation, they stop making the payment, and as we know, depending on the state, it takes time for the bank to be able to catch up, to be able to start their foreclosure proceedings. Once a lit pendants is filed, there's a timeline that has to be followed. Most times, these people know that. They know the timeline. So what will happen is they'll go into these scenarios, they'll get you in there, and then they'll start out. Maybe they start out making the first month, 1 or 2 months, and then after that, it drops off. Meanwhile, that's being reported to your credit. So your credit now is taking a hit. Your credit already took a hit because you were in this scenario, and then you actually crawled out of it by doing this deal with them. But then now, for the long term, for actually avoiding foreclosure, you've now turned this over to someone else where the control is out of your hand. You're not in the position to make decisions regarding the collateral of the property because you deeded it over to them. So what's going on is that they're now doing something erroneous because they're not making the payment. Meanwhile, the debt is being reported on your credit. And what happens basically is that your credit score takes a hit. And this is collateral debt here that we're talking about. So it's a heavier hit on your credit than as it would be something that would be like a medical bill, etc., or something like that. And so you need to basically understand the repercussions of how heavy that will be should in case the person defaults and not make their obligation, because you have no recourse to go after them whatsoever. In a situation where they don't keep their word and they don't keep their promise of making the monthly payments. So that's what I've seen. I've seen situations where the person stops making the mortgage payment, and they know that it's going to take the courts and the mortgage company and a time to be able to actually effectively set up a auction date and all of that. And they'll have the property rented out. They'll keep collecting rent, but they'll just milk it. They'll milk it until the property gets set up to go to foreclosure. And guess what? When the property goes to foreclosure and it gets foreclosed on, no one purchases at the auction. And even if a third party purchases it, it will go back to who? You. Maybe you guys did all this, your family, you did all this, and you wanted to move on, thinking that this will be behind you so you can go on and buy something else. Well, guess what? That debt is going to still be on your credit. So it's going to weigh you down somewhere or another. And if it goes to foreclosure, like I share with you guys, I don't care how bad your situation is, I'm never an advocate for allowing your house to just go to foreclosure. We have had people say, look, I'll just let it go. And they let the house go to foreclosure. And again, if you are in a state, depending on what state you're in, there are some states that will have deficiency judgments. And so if you're in a deficiency judgment state, then, that's trouble, because they can come after you for that deficiency. So even if they have a sale at an auction, they can actually come after you to recover what they did not recover. So you have to be very cognizant of this. Understand that if you're going to play this, you want to play this correctly. And so with all of this here, so how do you protect yourself? How do you protect yourself? It's very important for you to understand not only what your rights are, but how to actually look out for this and what to do in a situation that you find yourself in where your back is up against the wall. You need a solution. This seems to be a probable solution, but then you're not sure how the outcome is going to be. You're not sure who you're dealing with. The person might tell you, yeah, I've done X amount of deals. I do deals all over the town. This is not my first time around, etc. At the end of the day, it's a decision you have to make, because they're going to be making your monthly mortgage payment under your name. So you got to be cognizant of that. So the first thing is, there is a document that we have within Foreclosure Tax Academy that if you're involved in this type of situation, That document, you can download that. It's in the form section. And that document is one that you can actually use within the transaction to protect yourself. So I'm going to leave a link below. You can actually, after you join the academy, go in there and download that document, and you can use that document to be able to protect yourself in this type of scenario. If you're in this scenario and you're talking to someone about a subject to situation, you can use that actually to be able to help you give yourself some, protection for whatever could happen if the person doesn't perform on their end. The second thing I want to share with you, and I'm going to be teaching about this in Foreclosure Hacks Academy, is how to negotiate when you're in a situation of a subject to. So let's say, for example, you decided that you are going to go through with it, and you need this because you're looking at this as a lifeline. This is going to be the way to be able to help you not only reinstate, but just right now you just need to do it. You don't have another option. No matter what happens in the situation, you're willing to take the risk. Well, you need to know how to negotiate. So I'll be teaching you guys about that within Foreclosure Hacks Academy when we actually elaborate more on subject to. And the third thing that you need to be aware of how to protect yourself, that is very, very vital and important, and that would be this: is how, when, and what to record. It's very important. And what I mean by that is how, when, and what to record. There are things that you need to record in these situations that will allow you to be able to be protected, so you can sleep at night, so that no matter what happens and whatever, it's like whatever road they take, if they are honest and they come through and they do what they're supposed to do, and let's say, for example, they go ahead and perform, they make the monthly mortgage payments, and then they decide, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and sell, right? And they sell, and the debt is off, and the bank finds out at that point when they're selling, and it's too late because the debt is being paid off, everything goes well, and that's fine. But should in case it doesn't go well, you need to have a way to be able to not only protect yourself by knowing what and when and how to record and what to record. And so we're going to be teaching you guys more about that and sharing really how to protect yourself if you're faced with a subject to situation and you're dealing with foreclosure, so that you're not going down the path of what many people have gone down with being taken advantage of in these situations. One important piece I need to share with you is the fact that you can't force them to sell the property. So sometimes in these situations, when things go bad, where the property, the person takes over and they don't perform their obligation, the best thing to do would be to say, you know what, go to them and say, look, sell the property, right? Because when you sell the property, the debt is paid off and everybody walks away hands clean. But then what happens in the situation where the person is refusing to sell the property? You can't force them because you've deeded it over to them. So these are things that you just need to be aware of. It's very important that with everything that we do, we get guidance. We get 2 and 3 or 4 options if we can. And you do have to make a decision, but at the end of the day, you want to make not only an educated decision, you want to make a sound decision. I always share with you guys about wisdom, knowledge, insight, being led and being guided. And it's very, very important because you can get not only easily taken advantage of, but the repercussions can be deadly and really terrible for you, not only financially, but overall, because your credit, your finances, and all that have a large part to play with foreclosure and dealing with how to stop it and dealing with now. You're talking about people's largest investment in life. We take it very, very seriously. This is not a game. This is not a scheme. We're not trying to mislead anyone. And so generally what I would do is I give you the body of things. I give you the synopsis with the intent that once we connect, we can then guide you specifically and properly. You see that a lot with some of the members and some of our members and some of our clients that we're working with, that they actually be able to be guided through situations that they thought would never work, because we were able to actually get the body of it together. But then when we engaged them, we got the specifics. And we said, okay, based on this situation, based on this amount of debt, based on this timeline that you have, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to maneuver you out to where you need to be. So with that being said, if you're in the middle of a foreclosure and you're being approached with a subject to scenario, and you feel like you need help with it, you're not sure, you have questions regarding it, you're not safe in the situation, certainly reach out to us. You can reach out to us right online. Join the academy, foreclosurehacksacademy.com. I look forward to sharing more and more insight with you guys on this. I'm going to be elaborating more on how to protect yourself within the academy, and I'll be sharing with you details on not only the documents to use, but how to actually record them and what to do, how to negotiate, how to share with them your drawbacks and really be able to get them to be able to give more, and perhaps maybe get you reinstated and it can work out. But you can keep them accountable so that should in case they don't perform, you're still covered. And so with that being said, I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please comment below in the comment section. And until next time, make sure you click the link below and join Foreclosure Hacks Academy today. And we're just getting started. So look forward to seeing you guys on the next video. Thank you for watching.